The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, we can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. So good morning, everyone. And this would have been perfect weather for Reverend Master Ji-Yu. She liked it cool. So if you don't like it cool, appreciate that for her. Nice to have her ceremony on a day like today. So what I'm going to talk about today is the Buddhist practice of appreciation, and maybe in particular working on the tendency to take things for granted. Because actually, in our Buddhist practice, we're trying to not take things for granted. And please excuse me if you have heard this Dharma talk, bits of this Dharma talk before, because I gave this a Dharma talk a little bit on this topic about a month ago to the Bear River meditation group. And I also know that Master Oswin gave a talk on appreciation. All that being said, I just thought there was more. You know how sometimes you talk about something and then you realize, well, I could really develop that more. There's a lot more to say. So that's what I'm trying to do today. Okay. Reverend Master Ji-Yu emphasized appreciation and gratitude. It was really a part of what she taught us. When she gave meditation instructions, she was very clear that when you go in the hall or you go into your room where you meditate, you bow. When you get to your place or your meditation spot, you bow in. First off, you're bowing to that structure you're in, that thing that shelters you, gives you a place to meditate. When you get in there, you bow to the wall and you bow to the cushion or chair, whatever you use. And this is, again, because these things are aiding us in our practice. And then, of course, you always turn outwards and you bow to the people that are there. Or if you're on your own, you're still bowing to the people all over the world who help you in your practice. And in actual fact, when you break it down with time changes and all that, it's still probably millions of us meditating at the same time every day. So we can give gratitude for that. So all these bows help us to get out of our busy mind, because I think, at least I do, I walk into the meditation usually with a pretty busy mind, and the bows kind of, clue me in to stop, breathe, pay attention. What we develop, and we should always maintain, is a real gratitude and appreciation for those things that aid us in our practice. All those little things, If you didn't have a cushion or a chair to sit on, it'd be kind of difficult. If you didn't have a mat or there wasn't a carpet, and you're on the hard floor, it makes it a little more difficult than it needs to be. I don't know about you, but I find meditating with other people really helpful. To keep up your practice, it's a steady practice. It's just encouraging and uplifting to be with other people and meditate and practice too. Right? I meditated on my own for a year before I came to the Abbey, and it was really difficult to maintain it. But I was so driven, whatever, to keep going because I was a mess, and I found in that meditation just a real release from that. So at the core of Buddhist practice is appreciation, gratitude, and not taking things for granted. Part of what got me thinking about this were a number of things that happened recently. One is the pandemic. Okay? Another one, I have a good friend on death row in Oklahoma. He told me he could get pizza, and I'll develop that story a little bit. And we've got some really sick monks at the Abbey. So you begin to kind of realize that these things that were normal are no longer normal, or things that are here might not be here any longer, and people don't have everything that we have. So with the pandemic, it's been a year plus since we've had many of you here. Thankfully, we have Zoom as a way we can reach out to each other, but we miss our lay sangha. We miss having retreats in person here at the Abbey. Zoom doesn't quite make it up to that, and things are looking better now. So, tell you a bit about my friend on death row. So he's been on death row since 1986, and in a letter, because he corresponds with myself and a number of the other monks too. But he said to me that they can get pizza, Little Caesar's pizza. And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, wow, he hadn't had pizza since 1986, since he's gone in prison. And so he now had the ability to get pizza. He was not asking us for money. He was asking, he doesn't do that. He just, tells us about his life, and it's kind of a big thing. Well, of course, we sent him some money for pizza. Said, please use it for pizza. And I don't know, I honestly don't know that much about Little Caesar's pizza, but he said he got 3 8-inch pizzas. So it was something. He was really, really enthused. And how hot they come to him, I have no idea, because I don't think Little Caesar's delivers them into the prison. Must be some kind of, maybe they're frozen or something and reheated. But anyway, you got to buy them. You can't just get them. Okay. Yeah, so we just assume that we can have pizza when we want, so we didn't, we just take it for granted. I mean, even in a monastery, we take pizza for granted. There's a lot of hungry people in our world, in our country. It's something that's become more and more that you see on the news with the pandemic. And most of us take having enough to eat for granted. We rarely have we not, but there's people that don't have enough food. Okay, don't have a big variety of food like we have in the paradise of California. In the mealtime verse, we say we must think deeply of the ways and means by which our food has come. I think it's a good idea, because I tend to rush through that verse, and get to the food, is to really think about what you're saying. Slow yourself down and think about what you're saying. And take time to contemplate appreciation and gratitude for the chain of events and people who make our food possible. All through the pandemic, farmers were farming, farm workers were picking the food, truck drivers were getting it to stores were open and selling it. And all this was at some risk to these people. But they did it, and they kept us all fed and kept things on the shelf. And there was only a little bit of, I think, sort of unnecessary panic about food and toilet paper. So to look at that, the ways and means by which our food has come, and just not take it for granted. Look at that chain of people, that makes it possible. Without them, we don't eat, unless we grow our own. But then we got to get seeds, and and there's nothing great to grow your own, But if you live in Mount Shasta, that's only part of the year you can do that. So we have a couple of really sick monks at the Abbey. We somewhat tend to assume that those that are around us will always be around us, because they've always been around us. But in this world of birth, old age, disease, and death, impermanence is happening all the time. When it comes, when we think of it, really, we can't even control our own health, let alone those who we love that surround us. Yes, we can take care of ourselves and help others. This is what we should do. But change and impermanence will happen when they do. So appreciation and gratitude right now are really what is called for. It's like we shouldn't put them off. Now is the opportunity, and we don't know if the opportunity is going to be there in a while. I think many of you might remember, at least the older of us, Judy Collins, and I think it was Judy Collins' song about you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Okay, then there's another line in it. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Well, my aunt, she was my great-great aunt, who lived in Santa Clara, right next to the university that I went to, actually 2 blocks away. She had this great old house that I remember as a kid, and area, and then she had this storage barn, which was just full of old stuff. It was just amazing. But when she died, and she died way before I got to college, the property was sold, the things were dispersed, and when I was in college, I went and I tried to find where it was, and they paved paradise and they put in a parking lot, literally. Okay. So we don't have to wait until it's gone. It's too late in a way. Appreciation and gratitude are practices. They don't just spring up with most of us. They're just not kind of naturally rolling out of us. I don't think we're naturally grouchy either or upset, but these things, there's good practices and not so good practices. But appreciation and gratitude and not taking anything for granted are a practice. And so that's how we develop them. We practice them. And of course, it's that old thing of it's easy to do when it's easy to do. But when we're finding it difficult or we're having difficulty with people, we're not practicing it. Well, that's an opportunity we're missing, because the easy is easy. When it's hard, it really takes practice, and it's worth it. Master Jiyu used to say that there is no guarantee that the sun will rise in the morning. She wasn't trying to scare us, but she's trying to point out that because something happened today, tomorrow's a new day. Who knows? I hope it does. I grew up in the Sunset District up by the beach in San Francisco. So on the non-foggy days, I could walk into this beautiful sunset. It was just beautiful because you could see the ocean and you could see the sun setting in it. It was downhill to the beach from my house, slightly downhill angle, and see it's a beautiful view. I just took it for granted. Sunsets. I've seen many beautiful sunsets, so I just took it for granted. You can also take the fog for granted. I had one brother who was my older brother. We'd go on vacation, and we'd go to a nice, warm, hot place. In San Francisco in the summer, up by the beach, can be drippy fog and really, kind of that damp cold that goes to your bones. And it can be for a number of months of the summer. But my brother loved the fog. So what did he do when he got married? He moved to Marin County, right into the sun. Oh well, that's his life. His wife was from there and she liked it. So when all things always seem to have appeared in a certain way, we assume that is what it's going to be. But we also know that life doesn't always go in a straight line. Okay? There's twists and turns, ups and downs. It's the way it is. I mean, unless something thoroughly shakes us up or rearranges our life, mostly we tend to think things will be as they have been. It's not bad, it's very human. If we watch the news, we are clued into the fact that disasters, wars, catastrophes, they're happening all the time, all around us. There's a lot of suffering in our world. And yes, there's a lot of good things, too. I mean, if you watch the news, you watch a good balanced news station, they also show human goodness, generosity, kindness, and compassion. And so, I watch the news so that I know what's going on, and I can sympathize with people, because I live in a monastery. It's kind of like an ideal place. It's not like we're all perfect and everything is always wonderful, but it's a wonderful place to live. And during this pandemic, it was like living in a paradise, other than we couldn't have our good friends come in. We got people, we've got beautiful property, we've got hermitages that we can go to and be isolated. So we were really lucky. But so I know the Dalai Lama does this. He listens to the news in the morning when he gets up. This is the BBC News of the world, so that he can offer merit for all the various things that are going on. And I, in my small way, try to do that too, offer merit to all the things that are happening. And not get lost in all the suffering, but just offer merit for all those things. And I'm aware of them. Because when you see those things and then you see what you've got, you're not going to take things for granted. You're going to be appreciative. Yeah, so in some ways the news doesn't change. I mean, it's just different scenarios that are in different places, and it's just a lot of suffering, and it's very hard. And as I say, there are a lot of people trying to make a difference in our world, and you see that, and that's good to see. And I think there are more of them than the disasters, quite frankly, or the world just wouldn't maintain. So, I'm going to give a number of things that Reverend Master Ji said that have stuck with me, because this is her day of her ceremony. She used to say that when we are young, we think we're super beings. We think we're invincible. Okay? That's how I thought I was. I mean, I was strong. I did okay in school. I mean, I had my struggles and my big problems, but nothing was going to stop me. When I was 14, my best friend died. And that was a bit of a wake-up call. He was my best friend. He was also my hero. He was a year older than me, and I really looked up to him. He's only 15. It was tragic. And so it left an impression on me for a while. But, that faded as I got more and more into my teenage years, into my teenage stuff, into my teenage troubles. Some of us lose a parent when we are young. Some of us have a serious illness when we're young. And with those things, we're shaken, a bit. And we can use them as a way to look at life and see how fragile it is and how precious it is, and how taking things for granted is just, there's a better way. We shouldn't take things for granted. In our scriptures, it says, in a moment, life is gone. That's all it is. It's a moment. And life is comprised of moments. And I hope this isn't all morbid, because I'm not trying to be this way. I'm just trying to, show the Well, how life and death are always in our face. So how do you become more aware of the preciousness of life? Well, I know of no better source of this knowledge, that is the preciousness of life, than studying the Buddha's teachings and keeping up a meditation practice. And that's a meditation practice both on our cushion and in our everyday life. So in Buddhist practice, as I've said a number of times already, we really work on not taking things for granted. We slow down enough to look in detail at what comprises our life. The awareness of a meditative mind really takes a look at what is going on inside and outside of us. The Buddha taught the three marks of existence: dukkha, anicca, anatta. Dukkha is not only suffering, it's a suffering that can lead to the end of suffering. If we really look at it and try to change the things in suffering that we can. Anicca, impermanence, change, uncertainty. And it can't be solved by clinging, only by awareness of this is how it is and letting go. Anatta, not self. This helps to show us that we are not so different or separate than other people. So these three marks of existence help us to see life as it is, not as we would prefer it to be or we would like it to be. It's really important to see things clearly as they are. So with the practice of meditation, we slow down a bit and look into the areas of our life where we are taking things for granted. And in those places, we can then cultivate appreciation and gratitude. Sometimes when you're not feeling gratitude, you can stop for a moment and question that ungrateful feeling. Why am I feeling that way? And in that, it's really important to look at those three marks of existence and get yourself out of the way. Just look at the fact of, what's this feeling about? Am I seeing things correctly? Why am I really ungrateful? Is it really because I'm too focused on myself? Can I be bigger than a little me? Words of appreciation like thank you, they go a long way in changing our minds into vessels of gratitude. What we do, how we respond, how we live our life, it affects our mind and how we will live our life. A smile can break through grouchiness and unhappiness. It can be just that easy. If we carry ourselves lightly, we become more aware and appreciative of all the things around us that are constantly helping us, because there's so many things that help us. This is true even with the things we find challenging and difficult. We can bear them lightly and possibly transform them into something positive. Here's another thing Reverend Master Jiyu used to say. She said, if you take the time to meditate, there will be enough time. If you don't take the time to meditate, there will never be enough time. And I always thought about that. I thought, there's something to that. There's something in there. With the meditative mind, we can take a pause and slow down the mind. We can slow down our life a bit. This isn't about, coming to a full stop and falling over, but it's just slowing down a bit. The Buddha used to say, come over here where it's cool. Because we tend to get immersed into the heat and we're all caught up in it. We can't get. He said, just step over here where it's cool. It's just a simple step over here. So in other words, it's our choice. We can work through things that we're having difficulties with. We can work through when we're in a twist about something. And we can practice patience and acceptance. When we practice patience and acceptance, we can see what is really there, and appreciation and gratitude naturally arise. In the numerical discourses of the Buddha, in the chapter of the Fives, this is one of the books of the Pali Canon, the Buddha gives us the 5 contemplations for everyone. So the Buddha introduces these what he calls the 5 facts by saying, there are these 5 facts which ought to be often contemplated by everyone, whether man or woman, householder or one gone forth as a monk. So the 5 facts or contemplations are, I am sure to become old. I cannot avoid aging. I am sure to become ill. I cannot avoid illness. I am sure to die. I cannot avoid death. I must be separated and parted from all that is dear and beloved to me. And the last one, I am the owner of my actions, heir of my actions. Actions are the womb from which I have sprung. Actions are my relations. Actions are my protection. Whatever actions I do, good or bad, of these I shall become the heir. So I think these, if you choose to contemplate these 5 things, and you can do it, as works for you, with some regularity, out of that doesn't come fatalistic, morbid, oh, I'm going to die anyway kind of business. What actually comes out of that is gratitude and appreciation and not taking things for granted. Okay? I am sure to age. I cannot avoid aging. So if we're lucky, we get to grow old and age. Not everybody gets that. Not everybody gets to grow old. This inevitability of aging is not saying, why take care of yourself? I'm going to die anyway. It's actually very Buddhist to take care of yourself. Eat well and balanced. Get exercise. Get sufficient rest. Take care of your body and mind. And in doing that, don't become overly attached. Don't, right there. Yeah, don't be afraid of aging. Okay? And don't be overly attached to your youth. Because if you're lucky, and it's only if you're lucky, you get to grow old. And you grow old. And the body, changes. But we still should take care of it. I am sure to become ill. I cannot avoid illness. So there's no need to seek out illness. Illness will find you. Okay? It's just how it is in this world. The human body is an amazing and complicated thing. Not all illnesses are fatal. Okay? But something will get us in the end. If it's just our body is tired and worn out. Okay? The body can sometimes recover from serious illness, and that's good. Okay? We're not saying in Buddhism if you get seriously ill, that's it. Throw in the towel, get ready to die. No, because maybe there's a cure, but maybe not. Okay. So it's very Buddhist to live in a way that we stay as healthy as we can for as long as we can. And just as with aging, we shouldn't be afraid of illness and be panicked by illness. Okay? During this time of the pandemic, it has been prudent to take precautions. Masks, social distancing, the vaccine, good hygiene. These are all really good things to do during this time. It's been really, it's kept the bulk of us safe. Sadly, lots of people have died, but the bulk of us have been safe. So the fact that someday we will become ill doesn't mean that we throw caution to the wind. Okay? Rather, we accept illness if and when we get it and do what is possible to treat it. And as I said before, some illnesses have treatments and some don't. I'm sure to die. I cannot avoid dying. Having been born into this world, the one certainty is that someday we will die. The Buddha was a human being. He lived to an old age for his time. I think they say he lived in his 80s. That was pretty old for that period of time. And he died. He said the human body, when you start getting this old, because 80 in those days must have been 120 today, the body just starts to fail. And so we can have the attitude, well, I'm sure to die, so maybe I'll just live it up. Cram as much pleasure and excitement in my life as I can. Because we're going to die anyway. Well, that's a good recipe for a trail of karma and suffering. Okay? When we look at the fact of death for meditation, we would want to make the best use of the time that we have, the best use that we can. And because all living things are in the same boat, we're all in the same boat of impermanence, we would want to treat all living things with care, kindness, compassion, and generosity. Buddhism is not fatalistic, I'll say again. Letting go does not mean throwing things out. Non-attachment is not pushing away. To confront the fact that someday we will die, it's terrible when I write my things and you don't get a chance to read them. Doesn't mean that we live dangerously and seek out an early death. We hope we all live long. Okay? Death, if viewed properly, keys us into the preciousness of life. I must be separated and parted from all that is dear and beloved to me. Eventually, everything changes and moves on. Maybe the answer to this fact is that we don't get involved with all the transient things which will cause us pain in life. That's another good recipe for suffering, loneliness, But we can choose that if we like. If we look at the fact of separation and parting from meditation, we conclude that all that surrounds us, people and things, are precious and we should take care. Because all these things and people won't last forever. Buddhism puts real value on good friends. Working out our relationships with people is an essential part of Buddhism, as a part of our training. Interpersonal relationships are probably the most difficult thing in training. At least they are for me. And they're very worthwhile working on. Letting go doesn't mean we don't have close relationships with people. Our relationships just aren't exclusive and sticky. Non-attachment doesn't mean we push away people and don't care about things. Non-attachment is about not trying to get something out of someone that we need to find in ourselves. Impermanence points out that we should take care because we don't know how long we, they, and all those wonderful things around us will be there. We actually can know what we have before it's gone. I am the owner of my actions, heir of my actions. Actions are the womb from which I have sprung. Actions are my relations. Actions are my protection. Whatever actions I do, good or bad, of these I shall become the heir. Actions are not done in a vacuum, with nobody else around and nothing else around. Actions have results. How we live our daily lives affects ourselves, others, and our surroundings. In our Buddhist practice, we take responsibility for actions. We look at the results of our actions and try to live a life that causes as little harm as possible. In this last fact, the Buddha says that the fact of karma and our actions is actually a protection for us. This doesn't mean that we won't age, get ill, die, or be separated from what we care about. But because we are trying to do our best to keep the Buddhist precepts, our relationship to these four facts is not one of fear or avoidance, but rather acceptance, compassion, kindness, generosity, true love, and gratitude. Karma is not negative and fatalistic. Karma is about choice, responsibility, and looking at things with clear eyes. Being born into this life, we have the opportunity to not repeat the same mistakes and an opportunity to clean up our karma. Have an opportunity to turn what's negative and harmful into something that is positive and helps beings. When we accept this responsibility, rather than see it as a burden, we find a sense of freedom, actually. And freedom and responsibility go together. With freedom and responsibility, we look at what comprises our life and world in detail. Taking things for granted is not a good option. Life is precious. Time is precious. Gratitude and appreciation are real refuges. So, I hope that's the end of my talk, and I hope that it made some sense. Because if you're dyslexic and you didn't read through your notes before you gave it, you find some interesting things. But it's okay. So thank you.